What up? What up? What up? Welcome back to Marshall Time, episode 39. What's up, bro? How's it going?
What's going on, bro? Happy Juneteenth. Happy
Happy
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. Salute, salute. We got a lot of basketball to talk about. NBA Finals recap, obviously, but also some big news with the coaching situation in Detroit. We got free agency. We got the draft coming up. There's no offseason in basketball, so we got a lot to talk about. I'm loving it. First off, let's just recap what we saw in the NBA Finals. A champion has been crowned. The Celtics, championship number 18, the most in NBA history, one more than the Lakers, who have 17. They beat the Mavericks in 5 games. Jaylen Brown wins MVP. But just an overview of your thoughts on what you saw in the series and looking at the future for both these teams, and yeah, just where are things at when it comes to this league, and can we see a back-to-back champion possibly with the Celtics?
Well, first off, congrats to the Celtics, man. I'm happy for some of the players on the team. Obviously, I'm a Sixers fan. The Celtics are our rivals, but I don't believe it or not. I don't share the same. I don't hate the Celtics as much as other people do for some reason. I don't know what it is. I feel like with basketball, the rivalries they'll be there, but it's not the same with football. Like I hate the Cowboys and Giants. Like it's a real thing. But the Celtics, I dislike them, but it's not like I'm not upset that they won, and I think because the NBA is more, it's more of a player thing. I
I
like
think
Tatum.
I think probably Lakers fans probably don't like
Oh
Boston
yeah,
fans.
for sure. And then also, I'm a Sixers fan, but I'm a realist. We haven't been able to give the Celtics any competition for most
Yeah.
of my life, so it's like I can't even hate on them too much. Like they're better than us. It just is what it is. But you gotta tip your head off to those guys, man. I'm happy for Tatum for sure. Good to see Drew get another one. I'm happy for Porzingis. I'm happy for all the players, man. Like even Jaylen Brown, like he caught a lot of flack last year for his performance in the playoffs, but he stepped it up, man. He stepped it up this postseason. Had a good run. He ended up winning his Finals MVP. I know it's a lot of discourse on who should have won it. I'm not mad. I feel like it could have gone to either one of them. Me personally, I would have voted Tatum just because I looked at how he controlled all aspects of the game. But Jaylen Brown, he shot better and he did have the tougher defensive matchups. So you can't be mad at that. But yeah, man, Boston, I predicted them in six. I believe you did. You had them in six too. They won in five, man. They got the Mavericks up out of there. And really, I feel like they could have swept them. They wanted to win at home. That game three, or what was it, game four? And
In
when they got
Dallas.
blown out in Dallas, they weren't even playing with that same energy that they had when they won in game five. So
Yeah.
to me, that was just like, yeah, they wanted to take that to the crib and win that. So kudos to them, man. I feel like this is if you're a fan of basketball, you can't be mad at that ring because they're like a team that was built right. They have all the working pieces, especially for modern basketball. A lot of guys that can shoot, a lot of guys that are threats, a lot of guys that can defend. They rebound, they can pass. They're just all around built team, and they played together. What I mean, they weren't selfish at all. Every player in that series had their different moments, even players off the bench. You know what I mean? And to see a young coach like Joe Mazzulla get a ring, step into a role where he wasn't expected to do much. Like a lot of people had questions about him when he first came in. I remember a lot of the talk. And he did his thing. So you gotta tip your head off to them, man. That's a good ring for them.
The Celtics are the prime example of what a winning organization is. Staying true to what you believe, and what I mean by that is Brad Stevens. You have a situation where Ime Udoka is fired right before training camp. You got to make a decision. Oh, we're going to put Joe Mazzulla in this spot. Throughout the season, ups and downs, people wanted his job. They wanted him out of there, but Brad Stevens stuck to it, right? Empowering him, adding on to the coaching staff, bringing in a Sam Cassell. You're bringing in Jeff Van Gundy this year to be a consultant, right? During this playoff run. Um, Shout out to Brad Stevens for knowing that this team needed improvements. I feel like the Marcus Smart thing kind of ran its course at a certain point. He was a fan favorite here in Boston. I understand it, but at a certain point, you can't. This is basketball. It's pro basketball. It's business. You got to figure out how do we make this team better. Getting a Kristaps Porzingis. Some people questioned it. He's not healthy all the time. Well, this era of Celtics basketball with Tatum and Brown, they've never had a post who can actually stretch the floor and be a presence offensively like a Porzingis is. Rob Williams was injury prone. He was injured this year. So you're not, I mean, honestly, this was trading a Marcus Smart and getting a Kristaps Porzingis, trading a Rob Williams and a Malcolm Brogdon, and getting a Drew Holiday back. Those were no brainers. I didn't question those situations at all because I saw the reality of it having five guys at one time that can be threats out there at any given time to handle it, to shoot it, to score, to stretch the floor, right? And bringing Al Horford off the bench at this point in his career, right? So salute to Brad Stevens, Joe Mazzulla, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown going through the proper steps. We know what happened 2 years ago. Last year was a major disappointment, losing to Miami in 7 games. But to come back this year to dominate the way that they did, you can't have it both ways. You can't say they didn't play anybody because all the guys were injured. Well, if they would have lost, it would have been, oh, they flopped. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's either way they were going to be criticized, right? And so if I'm a fan of any team, I'm not going to take away that championship. We're Sixers fans. I don't care who we play. As long as if we win a championship, I don't care. You can't say anything to me, right? It's the same thing with the bubble championship. The Lakers won a championship. It is what it is, right? Tell these front offices to do better. That's just the bottom line. Um, it was funny to me that so many of the national media experts picked Dallas because in no basketball conversation can you make a valid argument. I feel like they got caught either they got caught up in the hype of Luka and Kyrie, which I understand. They got caught up in the Western Conference role that they had to take, but it's a matchup thing. It's funny. I think if Dallas would have played Denver, I would have liked Denver in that. I picked Dallas to beat Minnesota. I would have picked Denver to beat Dallas. It's all a matchup thing, right? And so in every metric you want to measure it, experience. Who has the experience? Boston. Defense. For Dallas, your top two players cannot be lackadaisical when it comes to defense because that sets the tone. Offense, multiple guys that can handle it. Shooting, we know what Boston does. So that with Dallas, PJ Washington and Derek Jones, they were really good in the playoffs, right? They made some timely big shots. NBA Finals time against the Celtics team, it's a different ball game. They've never been there before. It's a whole different ball game. And so in every single metric, it's like, how can people say honestly that Dallas would win this series? I never understood it. Um, some people maybe really believed in that, but if we just talking straight basketball, straight hoops, take away agendas, narratives, who they played, line these two 5 for 5, 5 on 5, lay them out on the floor. Who has the better basketball team? Who has more ways to attack? Who has more versatile pieces? Who has the experience? To me, it was a no. I never even questioned whether or not. It was just a matter of a win, right? 5 games, honestly, isn't a surprise to me. It was 6 games because you got to respect what Dallas has done and what they're capable of. But everything that Boston needed to do, they did it, And so there's questions of like, is this the start of a dynasty? I don't know. I think the NBA is in a different space. We haven't had back to back winners. When's the last? It's been a while, right? And so I think that remains to be seen. Now, currently constructed, they're giving themselves the best position to go back to the finals next year. They're my favorites as of now. I don't know what the offseason looks like right now, but if things being equal, I would still pick Boston to win the East again. I got to see how Milwaukee improves, how Philly improves, New York, Indiana, Orlando. But I still like Boston right now. But at the same time, I think the NBA is in a transition phase where LeBron is on the way out soon. Steph Curry and the Warriors are on the decline, right? And so there isn't that iconic sort of teams that are being built right now. We talked about Denver. People thought Denver would probably go back to back this year. Possibly was a good chance, but even that, there isn't that like LeBron in Miami feel, right? There isn't that Steph and Clay and Warriors feel. There's something. It's just a feeling when it comes to dynasties and going back to back. It's not easy. And so you got to cherish those moments. You can't take that for granted. But I think the NBA is in a spot where teams are now trying to position themselves, especially in the West. I think we'll see a different team in the Western Conference Finals next year, like the Thunder. Like you have, I think the Grizzlies can definitely get back to that spot. And so I'm not ready to say the Celtics will go back to back, but Tatum and Brown are not even 30 yet. So they're going to have plenty of chances in the next 10 years. Brad Stevens is a genius. Joe Mazzulla is still young. Over the next decade, I can see them winning another championship. Yeah, but back to back, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, as far as it being them going back to back, they have a good chance to because they're probably the only team other than the Nuggets, I guess, that you would look at the roster and say they don't have a weakness. And I can't even say about the Nuggets because their bench isn't as good as it used to be. So actually, they're the only team that really doesn't have a weakness, and that's what the most of these teams have to focus on for this upcoming offseason. You look at the reason we haven't had a lot of dynasties is because it's not so much about being star driven no more. Like, of course, you need your star players, but we talked about this last episode. A lot of these star players have weaknesses. You know what I mean? So how are you going to mask the weakness with building a roster? Like we saw with Tatum and Brown, their weakness before this run was both of them. They're good scorers, they're good defenders, but their playmaking wasn't the best. They're not floor generals. Even though we saw Tatum and Brown, for that matter, he improved his playmaking this postseason run too. But okay, boom, we'll get a guy like Drew Holiday that can run the point from time to time when these guys are in a scoring, they're in a scoring mode. You know what I mean? We saw with the Nuggets, Jokic, his defense is not his strong suit. What did they do? They went and got Aaron Gordon. They went and got KCP to, help their defense out. So it's all about how can these teams really mask the weaknesses around the roster. There's so many teams out there that have, they have potential. They have the star players. Look at the Thunder, right? SGA's he's tough. Chet is nice, but they need some more rebounding. They need some more size down low. Look at a team like the Sixers. Embiid's a beast, but the reality is he's hurt often, and we need more shooting around him. You know what I mean? So it's just about how are these teams going to go about it. There's a lot of teams that are knocking on that door. You know what I mean? They're close, but they have to make the right moves. In Boston, the thing about them is they're set. Both of their top players are young. Their roster is still intact. They're not going to lose anybody really, so they'll be back. Even Hal Horford is coming back. He has a year left on his contract, and he still can play. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, and another thing for Boston is I feel like that pressure is off their back. They got the monkey off of their back. That's the main thing right now. So now they're going to be able to really play loose, go out there with energy, and just keep playing how they've been playing. Like that confidence, that swag is real. But they have to stay hungry. That's the main thing.
Going
So
back to back is not easy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the thing.
they have.
Now, like people are like, you got that championship low, and Miami celebrating now before the parade and Friday. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, how do you handle that success now? That's the test. How do you handle that success and
Right.
attention that you're getting?
And we see, I know these front offices are looking at Boston celebrating, and they're like, "Yo, we gotta get one. We gotta get one. We gotta see how we can improve our roster, put the right pieces around our players, and just run it up." So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see if they can repeat, but it's going to be hard though. It's going to be hard for sure.
These front offices, right? You can see what other teams are doing, but it's hard to. It's one thing to actually do it. You know what I mean? Like I don't. That's why with the Sixers, yes, I get it. Paul George, I'm a fan of his. I've been a fan of his game since he entered the league, and he would be an upgrade from Tobias Harris. Anybody can see that. Anybody knows that. But it's got to be more than that. Like that doesn't move me alone. Like who are the other ball handlers? Like they have Drew Holiday and Derek White. Like that backcourt defensively and to be able to handle it, be able to shoot it. Who's in that backcourt with Tyrese Maxey, right? Who's another big that can stretch the floor, who can give us solid minutes off the bench? You know what I mean? And so Brad Stevens built this team. It was actually well thought out. Like it complements your two stars and it amplifies or like you said it sort of hides or helps out, takes the load off of a Tatum and Brown to be able to have to create so much. And so does it make basketball sense? Does this roster, does it work? You got to have the right guys that have the mentality. Drew Holiday has the right mentality. You know what I mean? Derek White has the right mentality. Like, and so it's much more than just on paper. This looks right. Look at the Suns with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. That roster did not make basketball sense. Like you just can't roll that out and expect it to be okay. This is going to work. No, it's not happening. You know what I mean? And so I think the Mavericks have to figure that out. You got Luka and Kyrie, but once again, as I said, your two top players, your two best players cannot be weak spots defensively. It just can't. It's just not going to work. And who's the third option? Who's a guy that can actually put the ball on the floor? It's what I talked about. That's why I picked Dallas over Minnesota. Outside of Ant-Man, who is really putting the fear of you to attack off the bounce. Mike Conley isn't it. Um, McDaniels is a really good young player, but he's still developing his game. So there are so many question marks that we talk about with these teams and these front offices. Can they actually do that? I'm not sure. We'll see. It remains to be seen. And who knows? I know Brad Stevens has to sign Derek White to an extension. Who knows with the draft who they might pick up? Like I just trust there are certain front offices I trust their decision making when it comes to drafting, evaluating. Who knows what players develop? You know, the Celtics have Jordan Walsh, J.D. Davidson. They've been grinding in the G League, working out before every game. Who knows what steps they might take that people aren't even thinking about? Because that's really what makes the dynasties. It's that development program, young guys that you didn't expect to take that next step, that take that next step, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to the most about Boston. And the Mavericks got to find that third, a wing, a legit wing, like that can actually score and defend, and that can lessen the load on what Kyrie and Luka do. But Kyrie and Luka, to be the two best players and defensively, yeah, we're going at them, and that's forever going to be a weakness for you.
Yeah, my thing with the Mavericks. Well, for one, we gotta be real. I like Kyrie, but he did not show up this finals. And if he shows up, we could be talking about a whole different scenario. Another thing too, Luka, he has to buy in defensively. I don't think like they can make moves, but it's always going to be he's such a mismatch on the court
Mm-hmm.
when he's not giving out effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw it, they were hunting him, and they did the same thing in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And people can say, "Oh, it's the playoffs now; it's the finals." They'll adjust. There's no adjustment for that. There's no adjustment. We're running 5 out. We're spreading the court out, and we're gonna say, "Yo, we going after number 77 over there."
No matter who got the rock, go.
Exactly. That's not it. He has to, and then the thing that puzzled me was game 4. We saw him moving his feet. We saw him playing defense.
It's an effort.
So it's an effort thing, and he has we know he's not fast, but he has the size to definitely stay in front of guys.
He has to be in shape too.
He has to definitely has to lose some weight, and so that's a thing that he has to do personally. Like nobody can do that for him. No coaching. You know what I mean? That's a decision he has to make. Another thing too, NBA Twitter is crazy, man. I'm seeing a whole bunch of people come for PJ Washington, and I'm like, what did y'all really expect?
He's
What
PJ
did y'all?
Washington.
Why are we coming for the third option when your second option played just as good as him? Kyrie played just as good as PJ Washington. And then your first option isn't playing any defense. Why are we coming for PJ Washington? I don't understand that. And what did you really expect? Like y'all should be amazed that y'all got this far with him. And not to say he's a bum, but you knew as your third option, PJ Washington wasn't going to come on. Y'all knew it was up.
He's not meant to be the third option on a championship team.
Right. And I just I don't know what they got going on. That was just my thoughts on it. But I am impressed with Derek Lively though. I saw that 3 he made. His jumper don't look bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully they start letting him take some more jumpers in the regular season. You know what I mean?
Yes. Solid young player. They still got to get that wing. They got to improve that wing spot.
Yeah.
That's just what the game is. Like you gotta have a guy at that spot. Speaking of NBA Twitter, and everybody has their opinion on the greatest of all time, their top 5, top 10, whatever. Like there's really no way to actually say, oh, you're wrong. Like it is. It's a preference thing. I'm glad you mentioned Kyrie Irving. It just came to my mind. I never knew how I felt about people saying he's the most skilled player ever, because how can I put this? I think Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. Therefore, I think he's the most skilled player of all time. Offensively, Kyrie's one of the most offensively gifted players we've seen. Be able to finish, his handle. I can't say you're the most skilled, and I saw what I saw in the finals. Now he's limited with his size, right? So there's certain things that he just can't overcome naturally, physically. But at the same time, I look at a Joker and I see what he does with limited athleticism. He has the size, but the shots that he makes, the passes that he makes, the handle isn't as flashy as a Kyrie, right? But I saw Steph Curry do something special 2 years ago in the finals. 6'3", same size as Kyrie, right? Steph has a strong handle. The best shooter I've ever seen. Best shooter, period. Why doesn't Steph get enough credit for being the most skilled player ever? That's just my question. I'm not here to say Kyrie isn't a great gifted. He is, but I'm not going to say he's the most skilled player in the NBA ever out of the history, because we're taking away a whole nother side of the basketball court defense that we're not even taking into account. So skilled basketball player, to me, you do it all. That's how I view skilled basketball player. Like Kawhi Leonard in Toronto was one of the most insane skilled players I've ever seen. Wasn't flashy, but he got it done. Tim Duncan wasn't flashy, but he got it done on both ends of the floor. So this Kyrie Irving stuff, most gifted, most skilled, I have a hard time saying that. That's just me.
Well, I think so. It comes back to what do you view skill as? Because some people don't view defense as a skill; they view defense as a effort, IQ, and athleticism thing.
Well,
You know
there's
what I
an
mean?
art to it. Hands, your foot, your feet, and your
Mhm.
foot. There's an art to it. But
Yeah,
even then, Kyrie isn't even. He's not a better shooter than Steph.
no. But when you look at, I think people. So the thing about Kyrie being that take about him being the most skilled, people look at the flashiness that comes with it, and they also look at the fact that he's just as good with both hands,
Mm-hmm.
finishing left, finishing right. I feel like at his size, like his ability, like not that he does it often, but he can post. He has a little post fade in his game. People just look at all the little nuances when it comes to him, and they just look at how it looks, like the aesthetic of Kyrie, the jelly layups, the his jumper, his midi. Everybody looks at they look at all that, but at the same time, it's like when you look at that, what do you value more? Do you value his skill or do you value Steph's skill? Because Steph's skill is his skill set is different than Kyrie's in a way, because Steph can kill you on the ball and off the ball.
He's moving off without that's
Right.
a skill
And
set.
that's a skill in it. That's a skill in its own. It's not as exciting for some people because he's not always breaking somebody down 1-on-1. But that's a whole nother skill set that people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyrie, I feel like it just comes with the flashiness and with Kyrie, it's like I don't know. It's just hard to describe. When you watch him play and you see him really in his bag,
Oh no,
like
it's special.
when we see Kyrie, like when you see him go for 57 against the Spurs when he was on Cleveland, if you watch that game, you're like, yo, this is the most skilled player ever. He looks crazy.
Yeah,
But at the same time, Steph has had moments like that too, and it just looks different. It's all. I feel like it's all determines what you classify as skill. You know what I mean? That's because the same thing can be said about Bron. A lot of people don't feel like Bron is skilled. Bron is skilled.
oh,
It's
he's not.
just his. It's just it looks weird.
Mhm.
It looks weird for one. We if I
Right.
don't care if you're a Bron fan or not, you can't tell me that Bron game doesn't look weird. It looks weird,
No,
but
it's not like exciting to watch at times. It's just
right.
like
But
weird.
he's still very skilled. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because if he wasn't, he would just be like another athletic guy in the NBA. So it all depends on what you count as a skill. I don't know who you could call the most skilled. I mean,
I
because
think Michael
some
Jordan.
people would say KD.
I think Michael Jordan is the most perfect the closest to perfect basketball player we've seen. And to me, that means most. To me, that's me personally. I think he's the
Mhm.
closest, most perfect from size, athleticism. He's put it all. The total to me, he's the most. He's the closest to a perfect basketball that we've seen to this day. To
Right, but
me,
see, then some people would say you can't say that because he didn't shoot the three ball well. But the truth is, he
well,
didn't need it. He
different
didn't need it.
era,
Different
different
era,
ball.
and it was times where he did shoot the three ball well. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? In big
he
moments.
developed.
Right. So I don't know. That's a whole another combo for to be honest. And then the thing is about the most skilled talk. It's players that aren't even considered the greatest, but they just as skilled as
Lamar Odom,
yeah. It's Rod
Rod.
Strickland. Yeah,
Like, I mean,
it's
there's like how are you gauging it? But for me,
Yeah,
it's like
that's it.
I saw what Steph did 2 years ago against the Boston Celtics. Some of the similar Tatum was still on the team, Brown, Derek
Right.
White, like Steph was him, 6'3". At the end of the day, you got to pick your poison with Steph. You know, if you sag off, he can shoot from half court. Is Kyrie
Right.
doing that?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, what are you
I would,
valuing?
who would
Like,
you as a defender? As a defender, who would you rather face, Kyrie or Steph?
me, oh,
For me, it's like risk being embarrassed against Kyrie or just risk being just scorched with Steph.
from a winning standpoint, I'd rather guard Kyrie because
That's
we
all.
just saw it in this finals. You can box Kyrie into a point where it's like he's going to take the tough shot, and if he makes the tough shot, he makes the tough shot. Steph is on some. If I blink for a second, he might be open in the corner, and it's a three.
The
So
dude is shooting threes, turning around before it even goes in. If
yeah,
that's not skill, I don't know what you're talking. I
yeah,
don't know
from
what
a
we talk. So you
from a
can't
right.
pick Kyrie over Steph for me. You just can't.
Yeah, no, Steph's better than him, but it's all preference. And then some people like it's all how you look at the game. Some people look at it from that playground in one aspect. Kyrie's gonna come down and cook you. Not to say Steph can't, but Kyrie's better. He's a better isolation scorer. That's just what it is. But if you're talking about winning basketball, Steph's definitely the harder to guard because of just the
Yeah,
on ball and off ball ability. It's just crazy.
it's
And in fact, you got to guard him from half court.
right. It's a fun conversation. I just when you brought up Kyrie, I was like, oh yeah, I meant to say something about that. Cause I just there was just a strong pull towards saying Kyrie's the most skilled offensive player ever. I'm like, it's a lot of players that have played in this league. Like
And we also have to count for a fact that back in the day, a lot of the guards weren't given the freedom that these guards are given nowadays. So we'll
Oscar
never
Robertson
right,
at that time, 6'5", doing what he did was like
right. You'll never know. You know what I mean? Like old players talk about this all the time. Like it was a stricter game. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
Larry Bird is one of the most skilled players we've seen. Kareem, like there's
Definitely
just
skill.
magic. Like it's preference at the end of the day, but it's like how does a guy like Steph Curry, who I've seen be the reason why a team won a championship, to like the main reason. I saw him like to be under 6'5", 6'4", and to be the best player on a championship team. That's Isaiah Thomas and it's Steph. That's the list. Like, let's go back on all the championship teams. Who was the best player? Yeah, they 6'5" and above, 6'4" and above, right? Like,
Yeah.
so there's a reason for that. It's not easy, and so I don't know, man. I highly like I'm like Steph to me is I think highly of Steph, and so it's like when these conversations come about, I'm like, well, let's calm down now. Before we even put Kyrie over Steph, we got to talk about the load that Steph has carried over the last couple of years. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
let's. Kyrie has had it. If you want to be truthful, since he entered the league, he's played with Hall of Famers. Let's just.
Yeah.
So it's like Steph had to grind him and Clay and Dre. Like they've had to like develop and find their way. You know what I mean? And so, but that's neither here nor there. So that's just a side fun conversation, barbershop talk. So we're full swing into the off season. I'm not surprised at this. But then on the flip side, I'm kind of surprised. Like y'all invested a lot of money into this dude. At least one more year, right? Pistons fire their head coach Monty Williams at the one season. They still owe him $65 million. So salute to you, Monty. Go on
Sounds one
vacation.
to me.
If you want to be a consultant to a team, assistant, by all means, but you don't have to work. You chilling, generational wealth. We love to see it on this Juneteenth holiday. You a black man loses his job, but he made out even better to me. You feel me? Um, so for me, I look at it like this: Detroit, you played yourself. Reports had Monty Williams didn't want this job to begin with. So anytime a person says they don't want the situation, they don't want the job, if somebody tells you no, it's a no.
Or if they ask you, are you sure? Like Doc Rivers is
And
with
right.
us.
And offering them more money that they're not going to decline because I'm not going to turn down 70, $65 million. So I'll coach the Pistons for that. Thank you. You know that if money is the motivation, they're not going to be fully into it. Now I can't speak on Monty. I'm sure he really gave his all. But if he doesn't want the job and all of a sudden he changes his mind because of the paycheck, you got to question your decision making, Detroit. Number two, Monty Williams. You're not off the hook either. Because when I checked in on Detroit games this year, I saw Killian Hayes starting over Jaden Ivey. That tells me all I need to know, that this is an unserious organization, unserious coaching staff, unserious basketball operation, because in no shape, way, or form, in any basketball logical reasoning, Killian Hayes should be playing over Jaden Ivey. I don't know what that was about. It was an embarrassment. I apologize for Pistons fans for having to see that. As a basketball fan, I was disgusted. So Monty Williams, just for that alone, salute for Detroit for having the look. You just eat that 65 minutes, whatever. But if my coach is playing Killian Hayes, he got to go. Salute to Monty Williams, though. You played Killian Hayes. You got what you wanted. You didn't want to coach Detroit, and then you got $65 million guaranteed in the bank. That's all I gotta say about Detroit. It's gonna be a long time before y'all start to even think about being the Boston Celtics, because y'all drafted Killian Hayes the same year Tyrese Maxey was on the board. If you don't remember, the Killian Hayes pre-draft gas was crazy. Somebody compared him to James Harden. I didn't see it. To me, he was a mid to average player at best, but they decided he was the seventh best player in the draft. Tyrese Maxey fell to the Sixers. Salute to y'all. So Detroit, you played yourselves. Monty Williams, salute. That's all I got.
Killian Hayes is very Dante Exum vibe. That's that.
Hey, he's Dante Exum making shots in the finals.
Yeah, but it took a minute. I'm talking about as a rookie, like
yeah.
But first of all, Pistons, I don't want to hear anything about Monty Williams because that roster construction is terrible. You got Cade Cunningham, who you drafted to be a franchise player, and I like Cade. He's a good guard, good point guard. He plays the game the right way. He makes the right play a lot. He can shoot. He can defend. He does everything pretty well. But you don't have no spacing around him. Like you got the Thompson twin. We know he can't shoot. Jalen Dorn's not a shooter. Jaden Ivey's not a shooter. Killian Hayes is not a shooter. So what is the spacing look like? Like you don't even have to be an NBA coach. Like if we hopped on 2K and played against the Pistons, I'm going to sag off everybody and put pressure on Cade. That's the game plan. And Cade still averaged probably 20 something this year with that type of spacing, which is crazy to me. So for one, the roster construction is terrible. The decisions is terrible. We know you guys aren't going to get any free agents. We understand. But your draft decisions are terrible. Now, Jalen Duren was a home run hit. I like Jalen Duren. That's going to be a good player for y'all. So was Cade. Ivy, the verdict's still out on him, but the fact is it's not a good fit. It's not a good fit for the Pistons because he's not an off-ball player. He can't shoot. He needs to have the ball in his hand too. No coach would come in and do anything with this team. That team is terrible. They need to just start from the front office. They need to start from the scouting department. They need to look at what decisions are we making in the draft. And it sucks because they don't got the number one pick this year. But then again, everybody's saying this draft class isn't that good anyway. So maybe that'd be better off maybe they can actually focus on draft. If I'm them, realistically, if they're not going to get somebody that's going to, they need to have somebody that can shoot. Like that needs to be their focus. Just get somebody that can shoot for one. Because I saw it was a moment where I think they had Kevin Knox out there, and I'm like, bro, come on, what are we doing?
In 2024, Killian Hayes and Kevin Knox should not be getting made minutes. You got to play your young guys. You got to play Thompson. You got to play out. You got to get these guys minutes to grow. You're not in a position where you're trying to win games. You're trying to grow and compete and learn how to compete. What are you doing playing Killian Hayes? You're not even giving Jaden Ivey a chance. You know what I mean? Like they had a 28 game losing streak. That is hard to do in the time of load management teams sitting out stars. To lose 28 straight games, like at a certain point, you do got to look at the coach and like, okay, is it connecting? Are the guys like what's really going on? I'm not going to say I know this for a fact. I'm just saying if I was a player in the locker room, I saw Killian Hayes getting more minutes than Jaden Ivey, I would have a problem with that.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
But what's funny is I saw a stat. They said the Celtics had more postseason wins than the Pistons did all year. But
the Pistons are trash.
But the funny part is the Pistons almost beat Boston at home to end their losing streak. I remember that because I watched that game. They took me to overtime, I believe. That was crazy.
One of those like, oh, well, you know what I mean? A little trap game classic for you.
Yeah, but it's just like, man.
They're 94-2. I'm reading the article. They're 94-2, 209, 94 wins, 290 losses over the past 5 seasons.
Disgusting.
You show me a bad team, I show you a horrible front office.
Yep.
And so they've made some changes. They have Trajan Langdon now. Trajan Langdon now is the president of basketball operations. he has some work cut out for him. And you're not getting free agents. I saw, wasn't it like a tweet or a report that the Pistons might be interested in Tobias Harris?
Yeah.
He played
So
for
I
them,
get
right?
more money. Yeah, he used to. And
It's like,
you know what's funny? He'll probably play good because there's no pressure on him.
you know what? If you sign Tobias Harris, I don't care how much money. If you sign Tobias Harris, I know you're not. I definitely know you're not serious. Like, what are we doing here? Like, honestly. So Detroit's trash. Monty Williams is owed $65 million to not coach the Detroit Pistons, and Killian Hayes isn't in the league right now, and he was their number 7 pick, and he started over Jaden Ivey. That's my commentary on Detroit.
It's just bad drafting, bad decisions. This is the epitome of a bad fit all around.
Don't blame Monty when he told you he didn't want to be here.
Yep.
All right, so the free agency period is starting up. Teams can negotiate with the free agents. Pascal Siakam got was it a max deal extension?
Yeah. I think it was 4 years, 180.
Yeah, no surprise there. The Sixers are one of the teams that people are looking at to possibly getting Paul George. I'm not sold that he would leave LA. I'm still not sure yet.
Did you see the comment he made on his podcast about he said players talk about front offices and GMs, doing shady business, and people were thinking he's talking about Harden and telling him about Murray, and I could see that because they're teammates right now. I'm pretty sure they were friends before they became teammates. So PG, the idea of PG sounds nice, right? I told you my thoughts on it. I like PG as a player, but he's been too inconsistent in the postseason, mixed with Embiid's injury history and PG's injury history. I'm not huge on it, even though I like PG. I want who I want. I want OG. I've been saying it since the trade deadline. They're saying that Brian Windhorst reported that he doesn't think OG is going to be thrilled with New York's offer and he'll test the market. I'm throwing the bag at OG, man. OG is what this team has been missing for years since Jimmy Butler. Not in the sense that he's as good as Jimmy Butler, but what he'll do, the defense, the 3-point shooting. He even showed the ability to make mid-ranges when he played against us in the playoffs. You know what I mean? I want OG, man. That's who I want. OG and some other guys. I would love to get Mikal, but we know the Nets are they're unrealistic about that situation.
They want like 21st rounders.
Yeah, I don't know what their problem is, but
honestly, the Sixers deserve blame for that because you had them. So I don't want to hear any complaints from the Sixers front office. You had them. That's on you. So with the Sixers, PG or OG, you're better because Tobias Harris is out of here. I'm just happy that Tobias Harris is gone. I'm just happy to see a basketball team in Philly without Tobias Harris. So give me PG, OG, whatever. But outside of that, okay, you add one of those two. I'm still not fully sold yet because I want to. This roster still has to add some. I want another ball handler. I want a point guard. I want a guy that can help out Maxey. Bring the ball up the court and direct this offense. I want a big that can stretch the floor. I want a big that can give some solid minutes off the bench. To help whenever Embiid's out or whenever he needs some rest. And so everything that I'm seeing about the Sixers, I'm thinking about the Celtics and how can we combat against that team. Right now, Boston is the standard. How do we get this roster to being close to what they offer? 5 guys that can dribble, that can shoot, that can handle it. They're not there yet. And that's what I'm looking at. How do you get there? Guys that can defend too. That's my only question with the Sixers. Any team in the Eastern Conference, how does your roster stack up against a Celtics squad that has Porzingis, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday?
Yeah.
So if you add a PG or OG, still, where do you stack up against that lineup?
And we got to have the right bench pieces because they got Sam Hauser and Xavier Tillman coming off the bench, giving them good minutes.
And that team has been together.
Right.
Chemistry is important. And that team has proven that they can win in the playoffs in the big moments. We still got to see that with Joel and Maxey. We still got to see it. There's a certain mental toughness that we have to see still. And your window is closing by the year.
Yeah.
Because Joel Embiid is getting older. He's in his 30s. His body ain't getting better. As he gets older, it gets worse. That's all I'm saying. So we'll see. It'll be an exciting offseason. NBA is always exciting. There was a picture about with LeBron meeting up with Nick Nurse or something.
Yeah,
Is that real?
that's what they said. But
He's not
they
coming.
got JJ Redick now. He's not leaving.
He's not leaving. He's not coming to Philly.
Is that was that official or that was just a
That's just what people. I think it's going to be JJ.
yeah.
I think all signs point to JJ.
Yeah.
They're given a few days to let the Celtics have their moment before making that announcement. But the coaching, I guess, is James Borrego, and JJ Redick right now.
Mhm.
The short list is it's a very short list. It's two names as far as I'm concerned, but everything points to JJ Redick. But yeah, we'll see. It's still everybody stacking up and see how they stack up against Boston. You gotta the blueprint is set, but actually executing it is a different thing, and not many teams can do it. Not many front offices have that vision um, and savvy to pull it off. We got the draft next week. We'll definitely cover it in full. It's next Tuesday and Wednesday because they're separating the days now. Round one is one day, and then round two is another day. Which overall, just quick thoughts on this draft and how people are talking about it. I think they're unfairly trashing it, but
Yeah.
I'll get my thoughts. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think people the problem is we're looking, every draft we look for the big name and we look for the, who was killing it in college or who's the intriguing prospect from overseas. You know what I mean? But I feel like this year there's going to be some players that are drafted that will down the line be big pieces for some championship contending teams. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
not everybody's going to be a star. Even the number one draft picks a lot of times are not stars. They just end up being really good pieces to really good teams. Um, there's guys out there that can help. You know what I mean? So we'll just see. We'll just see how it goes. Um, we'll talk about it more next week. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
think I just think that people are too harsh on it in terms of it being the worst draft class ever because you're not going to know until years after because you never know. Like there's been guys that's been drafted late round and you don't know how good they are until people didn't know Kawhi was going to be as good as he was. Same with Greek.
right.
Know what I mean? Same with
I,
Jokic.
yeah, it's an easy thing to say. It's a weak draft class. Look, what that means is there's no Wimby, there's no Zion, right? There's no Chet, Scoot, Brandon Miller, Boncaro. But most of the times, I think people have a unrealistic expectation of what a lottery pick pans out to be. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, most lottery picks don't pan out to be all stars. So I just picked a random year. Remember the 2018 draft?
Uh, who was
That
there?
was with Luka.
Okay. I know
So
Marvin Bagley was ticking before him.
remember who the top pick was?
Aiton, right?
It was Aiden. Is Aiden a
Or
franchise player?
no,
Is he a number two on the championship team?
right,
Marvin Bagley. Nothing. Okay.
right,
Luka Doncic, obviously. Jaren Jackson, number four. Okay. Trey Young. Okay. Mo Bamba was number six.
right.
Wendell Carter was number
Mo
seven.
Bamba, Mo Bamba was a name. That's what I'm saying. People get caught up in the names way too much.
Colin Sexton was nine. Mikal Bridges went 10th. SGA went 11th. You do this draft over, SGA is probably number two behind Luka, right?
Right.
So the same people that are saying, or the same scouts and front office types that are saying this is a weak class, you're the ones that are drafting Mo Bamba number six.
Over SGA. Yeah. We talked about this numerous
Hey,
times. People look
yeah,
at potential and hype and narratives instead of just what is it? What is this player's skill set? What can they become? That's what it comes down to. When you saw Kawhi, you thought about a guy that okay, he's not the best shooter, but he can play defense. All right, we'll put him mid first round. You didn't realize the fact that he had a nice shooting form. He just had to work on his shooting. They didn't look at the fact that he can rebound. They didn't look at the fact that he's athletic. And actually, you looked at a guy that was okay. He's short. He's not the best shooter. You didn't look at the fact that he was a Kentucky guard giving out gas at Kentucky. You should know what the Kentucky guards are. Jalen Brunson, you thought he was too small. You thought he wasn't in the best shape. You didn't look at the fact that he was the leading point guard for a national champion. Same with Mikal. Know what I mean? people just look at the scouts and the media, everybody, they look at the wrong things a lot of times. And potential is important. Don't get me wrong, but potential only takes you so far. So,
To me, SGA was the ultimate potential with his
right.
size and with. To me, I have a policy. If I see a Kentucky guard on the board, I'm getting them. Like
At this point,
nine times
you'll
out of
be a
10.
fool not to.
At worst, you got a Malik Monk, who's one of the best 6 men in the league, right? Um, and Kentucky guards really aren't able to show fully what they can do. Look, Emmanuel Quickly and Tyrese Maxey couldn't show what they did at
That's
Kentucky.
why I don't get a lot of this Rob Dillingham. Like a lot of people are doubting him,
Yo,
and I'm like, I understand some of the concerns, but just
yo.
off the potential, like if you want to talk about potential, let's get Rob Dillingham then. If that's what you want to talk
Sometimes,
to me about.
sometimes you just gotta believe what you're watching.
Yeah.
His speed, his shiftiness. Like we're not
Uh,
asking him to be the number one. If he goes, you put Rob Dillingham in a San Antonio situation. Like I said, if you're a San Antonio point guard and you don't average 10 assists, something's wrong with you.
right.
Get a Rob Dilly in San Antonio with him and Wimby.
Even Reed. A lot of people are doubting, you know what I mean? A lot of people are doubting Reed. I get some of the concerns, but bro, we saw him and Devin Booker look the same at Kentucky.
I'm trying to tell you.
Like I'm not saying he'll be booked, but it's the same situation. Like he can shoot. He played his role well at Kentucky. Let's see what he'll do in the league.
Listen, I typed in the 2022. I just love looking at past drafts because just people think, oh, top 10, you're going to be something. So 2022 obviously had Paolo, Chet, Jabari, um, Dyson Daniels went 8, Jeremy Sohan went 9, Johnny Davis went number 10, Andrew Nimhart went 31. So Walker Kessler went 22. So it's like, what are we talking about here? There's always going to be misses. There's always going to be hidden gems in every draft class. And this year's draft class may not have the big names, but like you said, there are going to be players who are going to be really crucial parts to what teams do when it comes to playoff time, even building toward a championship. Like I really like a lot of guys in this draft. Like there are a lot of players that I like. I like a Devin Carter out of Providence. I love the Kentucky guys, Reed Shepard, um, and Rob Dillingham. I like Ron Holland. He's been sliding down the draft. I think if he gets to the right spot, he can develop into something. I like Dalton Connect from Tennessee. I think Sarr should be the top pick for me personally. Um, we're seeing other reports about the Hawks possibly drafting Rishashar or Klingon. I got thoughts on that. We'll talk about, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out next week. Um, yeah. Did you want to have any closing moments about the draft, or you pretty much said everything until
Nah,
next week?
yeah, nah, yeah. We'll save it for next week.
Klingon number one. How you feel about that though?
Nah, I'm not. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. I'd rather go Sar. Like
Am
I
I
feel like
missing it? Am I missing it with the other dude, Rishashar? Am I saying his last name?
that's a potential. They're looking at potential with him, but I haven't seen enough of him to play to really say is he going to be
Nothing
good.
pops out. Nothing jumps out at me though.
Yeah, but
With
I think
Sar, at least
Sar.
okay.
I feel
Sar,
like
like
Sar will come in day one, and his defensive presence will be felt, and I
yeah.
feel like that's huge, like for a rookie. You know what I mean? And but I think people are looking at the fact that it's a number one pick, and it's like we want more from you. But like we said, not every number one pick is going to be that.
If he can be a star defensive player of the year
Right.
candidate every
That's
year,
half the battle, especially for the Hawks. That's half the battle for y'all.
he can develop. He can develop into something offensively. Who
Right.
knows? You
Right.
know, but we'll discuss. We'll talk about it. Thank you guys for watching us, listening to us. We'll be back next week with all the NBA draft coverage. A lot to talk about as well. Until next time, we'll holla.
Peace out.